Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. December is filled with so many celebrations. I thought it might be of interest to talk about some of perhaps the lesser known that we share with our family and friends. But first, of course, this is Latina Literati. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. There are so many celebrations in December. You begin, of course, with things that are traditional. On the 7th of September, something called Quema del Diablo, which means you burn things that represent the old year to prepare for the celebrations of the new year. And so the 8th is, of course, the Feast of Our Lady, and that's celebrated throughout Latin America with a lot of pageantry and different festivities. And then, of course, you have the Virgen de Guadalupe on the 12th. Lots of, again, the entire hemisphere celebrates this, and it's a big deal where the mariachis sing to La Guadalupana, and there's a lot of also tamal making and eating. That's the official time after Virgen de Guadalupe that the posadas then can begin. Then on the 13th, you have El Dia de Santa Lucia, St. Lucy's Day, which is huge in the Northern European area, although she was originally from Siracusa in what is now Italy, but in Sicily actually. But it's a huge celebration. Again, a lot of young girls draped and dressed and festivities and lots of candles because it's a time of lighting the darkness. And then you have all of the Winter Solstice celebrations. And I'm going to speak about a couple. One of them is called Yalda. And Yalda is celebrated throughout the area that was once the Persian Empire. And it's a beautiful, beautiful tradition where you spend the longest night together as a family in joy and unity. And there are special foods that are eaten. Pomegranates are eaten, and this represents prosperity and well-being. Also, traditional foods like watermelon are eaten, and this represents health. But even more fabulous is that the tradition to read beautiful poetry together. And there's one poet, the famous poet Hafez, that is particularly chosen for this night, and people are asked to choose poems and then read them and share them. What a beautiful way to spend an evening, to spend the longest evening together. And also the elders of the family are asked to share stories and traditions with the young ones, and it's a way of teaching and passing on traditions. So beautiful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful celebration, and what a beautiful way to spend the longest night and prepare for the coming of the longer days. Yalda is a 2,000-year-old tradition, and it is based in the Zoroastrian principles. So fascinating. Again, for 2,000 years, people in an entire area of the world have been celebrating the longest night in this way. Of course, the Winter Solstice is also celebrated throughout the world with all sorts of bonfires and celebrations. And this is really a time when cultures recognize that it was a turning of the seasons, the beginning of winter, and also the beginning of the days getting a little bit longer. So you're waiting for the light. Fascinating. There are so many different traditions around the world about winter solstice, and of course the famous Stonehenge in England and the similar in Ireland and Scotland. These traditions of the solstice celebrations with fire are again also thousands and thousands of years old. And of course, once you have the longer days, then you have, beginning on the 26th of December, you have Kawanza. So Kawanza is a beautiful celebration. The tradition of Kawanza was established in 1966 by Dr. Marlena Kawanga, and it is representative of African traditions and those who celebrate it around the world, but mostly in North America, really look to the meaning of the 7 principles of Kawanza. It is a candle lighting ceremony, not unlike other celebrations of lights where candles are lit, whether it is the Advent wreath or the Hanukkah candles. There are many celebrations of light and fire during this time of year. The 7 principles of Kawanza include unity, self-determination, collective work, creativity, faith, purpose, and responsibility. So on each day, these are discussed. There are also traditions of drum circles, traditional foods, beautiful gatherings, storytelling. And the importance is of people coming together and celebrating these principles. The colors stand for green of the candles. The colors stand for green for the future, red for the struggle, and black for the Africans who celebrate it. So it's a fascinating relatively new holiday, but millions of people celebrate it. It's a wonderful way to integrate the African traditions into a modern interpretation for the celebration of the end of the year. And it ends on the 31st. So what happens during these celebrations is gifts are exchanged and foods are shared, and there's a lot of joy in the daily or evenings where people gather to celebrate Kawanza. So happy Kawanza. We've talked about the winter solstice and how important it was for ancient peoples and that it was a turning point of the year. And today, Winter Solstice Day is celebrated again, as I mentioned, by fires, by all sorts of gatherings in nature, gatherings together in family, thinking about the new year, thinking about all of the things that one may want to change and leave in the old year. Winter solstice, again, has been part of human history for thousands and thousands of years. And so I hope you celebrated it. Also, happy winter solstice as well. As we celebrate all of the other holidays of this month, I wanted to share some details of perhaps some of the holidays that aren't as commercialized for good and are more family-centered and less materialistic. They are more about unity, more about coming together, more about learning, sharing, telling stories. And so I wanted to share those with you. And now on to my favorite part of the video, the book recommendations. I could not begin to share anything without recommending a book on the poetry of the incomparable, the immortal poet Hafez, amazing poet. He has many, many volumes of his poetry. And so to understand the concept, I believe, or to understand the perspective of a people, you need to read their literature. And to read his poetry is to have your ear kind of sung to. It's so beautiful, not just the cadence and the vocabulary, but the concepts. So I would highly recommend his poetry. Very beautiful. If this is of interest to you, please go to your local library, your local bookstore. I'm sure that they will have books translated if you need it translated. The poetry of Hafez. The second book is, of course, a book on Kawanza. For those who may have an interest in learning a little bit more in depth about the principles of Kawanza, I wanted to also recommend a book that may be of interest to you. Again, check your local library, check your local bookseller. I'm sure they have books on Kawanza as well. And the third book is, of course, on the winter solstice. Many, many people, this historian takes many of the folklores, folktales, stories, traditions from around the world and shares them. So really interesting that this is something that is celebrated around the world in so many ways and marks the beginning of the new year, truly. In other words, that there's more light, that the days are longer, that we have hope that the sun will be back after winter. Thank you so much for joining me on this joint journey. We learn together, and I enjoy sharing these books and ideas with you. Please let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you'd like us to talk about. We would love to share the ideas that you recommend. We've done it in the past, and we will do it in the future. So let us know in the comments what you'd like us to talk about. And of course, we would love you to subscribe and to let us know how we're doing. Thank you so much. and happy whatever you're celebrating. Happy everything in this wonderful month of celebrations. As always, con mucho cariño, mucho salud, mucho amor. Gracias.